Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. Today, I've got somebody that's hot. His name's Danny O'Shea, and I am Craig Domann, your host. And Danny is a former football player, baseball player. He did a lot of different sports, but he's best known today as a U.S. pairs figure skater. Danny, thank you for joining Pro Mindset.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's rock and roll, man. We were talking before the show here, and you guys are hot. So your partner is Ellie.
Yes. Ellie
is her
Camp.
last name Camp?
Yes, Ellie Camp.
Ellie Camp. Okay. And so you have a very interesting story from the standpoint that you're like Michael Jordan.
I don't know about
you almost, you have this like pro career, you like this elite level career, and then you walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you came back. So why don't you share with everybody your story? And I'd be remiss if I didn't say you guys are currently the U.S. national champions. You're ranked in the top 6 in the world. And you're targeting medaling, getting into first, but then medaling in the 2026 Olympics in Milan, Italy.
Yeah.
Am I on track so far?
Pretty amazing. Oh yeah. Those are amazing long-term goals. Try to focus on the short-term ones to get us there. But yeah, that would be some high in the sky goals for us and true to the accomplishments lately.
Okay. Is there any reason why you shouldn't be the representative for the U.S. in 2026? Something you're not letting us know. Right? You can let us know right now why you shouldn't make it.
No, we should definitely make it. I think that we're going to be one of the teams there to represent our country, and hopefully we get to be part of the team that earns our country some spots at this year's 2025 World Championships. So I'm excited to go after it. And, Ellie and I have been working really hard this season, and we've pushed ourselves into that top 6 in the world right now, which is a huge accomplishment for us moving into the second half of the season. We're about to go in 2 weeks to France for the Grand Prix final, which is basically the end of the first half of the figure skating season. And that is just the top 6 pairs from the Grand Prix circuit. So that's where we're going shortly and hope to keep improving on that top 6 status,
Okay, so Danny, I could go a lot of different directions here, but I'm just going to focus on the heat. Right now, you guys are hot, and you got to maintain this momentum. You get a little bit of grace, but you got to maintain this momentum, and then you have to peak at the Olympic trials in January of 26, so that you can end up being in the Olympics in Milan.
Yeah.
What is it about you and your partner's game right now that is enabling you to be hot? Like you're winning, you're top of your game. What's different today than it's ever been before?
Well, we're a pretty new team relatively for pairs, right? We're in our 3rd season, but only at about 2 years and 2 months into our partnership. And we're really just starting to hit our stride. I think that's the key, is that the first 2 years of skating together, the first 2 seasons that we were together, we've been working through a lot of the process that was like meshing as a team and understanding the ins and outs of skating together really well, because so much of my sport is just like connection and unison and being able to understand the other person like in a very like relational way, right? We have to deal with each other every single day on the ice. And I know I'm not a perfect human being, not always the easiest, right? And then we have to perform at our peak together. And then we have to physically perform each of us in our best capacity, and learning how to set up the circumstances, learning our processes so that we can peak together at the same time. Something that just takes a little bit of time. And quite honestly, to have done it in about 2 years now is a very short period of time. So we're really excited to be hitting our stride, having all of our elements coming together now with the technical side, and really happy with a lot of the changes we made in the off season in our performance side as well that are meshing and working for this season.
Okay, so we met at a gathering here in Colorado Springs. you went to UCCS. I'm assuming you did that so that you could train at the US, at the
Yeah.
and you talked about the idea and the fact that you had a previous career with a different partner and then walked away from the sport.
Yeah.
And you're in your 30s and your partner is like 19, 20, right? Okay. So there's a generation gap. There's an age gap. You shared with me, unless something's changed, you guys don't have a romantic relationship. You have a business relationship. And so my question is, and a lot of people in your world, they have romantic relationships, right? So that's an extra layer of emotions that the athletes have to deal with that you don't have to deal with. But something that you have to deal with is that she's young, and the thing that she has to deal with is you're old, right? Because you don't get her, and sometimes she doesn't get you. So my question is, from a place of wisdom, what is different about now than it was 7, 8 years ago when you were in your 20s and you almost did it?
Yeah. Yeah. When in 2018, what you're speaking of is I was the first alternate to the Olympics in Pyeongchang. And that was a year where the US had only earned one spot for pair teams to send to that Olympic Games. Due to injuries and certain mishaps, some of the best teams, including my partner and myself, were not at the World Championships when they were trying to earn the spots for that Olympic Games. So it came up to 18 qualifiers and body of work, and we did not make it. We were the first alternates. And we were very close, right? And now, this time around, I'm hoping to rewrite some of that history for this time through. And to answer your question, what is the difference this time around? And I would have to say gratitude is my main driving force right now. I stepped away from the sport. I was done after not making the 2022 Olympic Games. I didn't even really put in the old college try, right? I got injured halfway through that season and didn't even go to the nationals. That would be the Olympic qualifier or the last qualifying event. And to be honest, we weren't one of the top teams that were vying for that spot even. And I stepped away after that that season. Thought I was done. Was gonna try and start a business and moved back here to Colorado Springs. And our current coach, Drew Meekins, asked me to come into the rink and work with some of the skaters some of the skater girls who didn't have partners, help them learn partnering, learn pairs in general. And he was unsure about it. I was in a place where I wasn't really sure about my sport so much in general. Had some mixed emotions and mixed feelings about the process I had been through and all of that. And I just said, be great, keep me in shape, make some money while I'm starting things in the rest of my life. I was into the rink, remembered how much I loved it, honestly, get to do it again with added layer of pressure, and really got to share my knowledge and my love for the sport with another generation of skaters and help them accomplish a lot of things, which was a lot of fun, honestly, for me, seeing younger athletes learning new things and feeling good about their process. And then Ellie and her previous partner at the time ended up breaking up. And I had been watching usfigureskating at the time, and I had been watching globally what was going on within our sport. And there's a little bit of a fire inside of me that said, see what's out there. And I feel like I'm still good enough to be in the midst of that, right, with the right partner. And I had been watching competitions a little bit, and then Ellie and her partner broke up. And I called Drew, and I said, what happened? Everything okay? Is she fine? Is she going to continue? And he said, yeah, I think she's going to continue, just some differences. And I stepped back into it, right? After 3 days of skating together, we decided to team up and go after competing that season, where it was September in that season already, which is about halfway through the figure skating season initially, right? Well, at least the preseason, right? You're starting a little late in September. And we went after it, and every experience as I've gone through with Ellie has just been overwhelmingly like the feeling of gratitude. I'm so happy to be here again because I thought I was done, right? I had come to terms with my career. I was happy with what I had accomplished. I had championships and wins and medals and long tenure on Team USA already. And I felt good about who I was as a person, put full effort into it, and I was stepping away and I was choosing to be happy with that. And then this second time around is just, there's so much gratitude. I wish I could come up with a better word for it. I keep repeating myself, but the first year we ended up making that world team as the third team to make the spot. And stepping back out onto world's ice in Saitama, Japan, I almost teared up in our first practice because I was just overwhelmed by the feeling of like, you never know when is the last time you get to do this. And I'm going to make the most out of every chance I have right now. And it's been amazing because this season I'm now reaching new heights with Ellie compared to I've ever reached before, right? We're scoring higher overall scores than I've ever achieved in international competitions and medaling at Grand Prix. And we're about to head off to the Grand Prix final for the first time in my career after, it's funny, I was told by a reporter at Skate America that they're like, how's it feel being your 13th season on Team USA? I hadn't connected the dots. It's been 13 seasons. Wow. It's pretty good to still be here, right? But to be reaching the peak and being able to do it with Ellie, who is such a hard worker and such an amazing attitude for the process. It's been wonderful. So yeah.
Okay, Danny, let me interject here what I heard you say. I heard you say that you had an identity reset because when you were first doing this, there's always a measure of pressure that gets added on. And the more success you have, the more pressure you have. The higher expectations you have, the more pressure you have. The farther you get along in the sport, in a normal year, you would have been an Olympian, but you weren't an Olympian because the U.S. didn't get more than one spot, right? And then in the nationals, and you explained that to me. It's not like the NFL where we're going to have X number of teams in the playoffs every single year. No, the U.S. is going to be represented based upon how they show up in the World Championships. So when you got so close, and in most years you would have been an Olympian, it's very disappointing, very humbling.
Oh,
and
for
it's
sure.
very difficult to recover from that because you play the what if game in your head all day long. And once you stepped away, you became a coach.
Yeah. Different mindset.
You cannot become a coach unless you really have some wisdom, you have some experience, and you can teach it. You got to really know it. So then you got to a higher level of competency when you were teaching. And then you get partnered up with someone who has a lot of ability.
Mm-hmm.
And by all the things you said about her, a lot of confidence, a lot of, she's got something. She's made you better. You've gone farther with her than anybody else you've ever gone with, right? So you got to give her some credit, right?
Oh, for sure. Lots of credit.
Yeah. So what's happened, and I see this a lot in sports and in performance, is when you do an identity reset, all the things that were hunting you before are gone. You got nothing to lose. You got everything to gain.
Yep.
And you've created your own performance bubble almost unintentionally, because what you want to have in your performance bubble is peace. You want freedom. And when you have a spirit of gratitude, when you're on the ice, you can flow, you can be graceful. You can be responsive. You can be connected to your partner, all those things. You can read your partner. Maybe this isn't her best day. You can still make her look great because you know where she's at. And she knows where you're at. But it's so important as a competitor that you do that between every competition. You almost do an identity reset every time.
Yeah.
Just because you're top 6 in the world and you're going to go to Paris or wherever you're going and compete in the
Grand Prix final.
What is this next one? International, what is it?
Grand Prix final.
The Grand Prix. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
Only pressure if you make it.
It's true, right?
You can create your own if you want.
It's fun sometimes, have a little pressure.
So
yeah.
does that make sense? And so from my perspective, very few athletes at a elite level get do-overs.
It's very true. I'm blessed.
You're getting a do-over.
Yeah.
Because, you probably are stronger now than you were when you were in your 20s. It's like, it's not, well, I'm sure you got to take care of your body like nobody's business, but
For sure.
you can do it.
Yeah. The experience definitely helps, right? There's something to be said about lots of muscle memory built into things and lots of years of understanding competing at the elite level, right? And then creating a new muscle memory with a new human being and creating new processes and how we work together at competition and that kind of thing. But it's great, It's been one of those things where competitions have been a lot of fun, where there's a ton of pressure, and you still have to feel the stress, feel the emotional, physical response of the excitement and the pressure and the adrenaline of the competition. But it's one of those things where instead of running away or fearing that the adrenaline, the butterflies, the yawns from the getting ready to perform, now I have it again after not having it for a little while, and it comes and I'm like, oh yeah, like I get to do this again, right? I get to compete again. I love competing, right? It's one of those things where I personally feel I'm at home most when I get to be out on competition ice. I like training, but I love competing, right? And the hard work and the constant work on your body to make sure that you're both strong enough, but also recovering well enough. You're working on your mental game and the roller coaster of emotion and stress that just comes with trying to be an elite athlete in general and traveling across the world for a competition. And you get there one day before you practice, you get there, you practice, you compete, right? There's not a lot of time in between and adjustments for jet lag, or if you're just happen to get sick on the plane or anything like that, right? So these moments can be like very stressful and very difficult in general for everyone who's doing them. And I think that one of the legs up I have in this circumstance is every time I get there, I get to do this right now, right? Because there's no guarantee, right? I don't know. When you're first getting it, you step into life, and as a younger athlete, maybe I was a little cocky, maybe I was a little bit just didn't understand the full process, right? I was like, yeah, I earned this. Well, yeah, you earned it, but you get to do it, right? Like you earned it by working hard, but it's an opportunity given to us to be able to do this, and to have it again is, I'm so excited for it. So it's been a huge blessing. And I think that helps me not look at it as so much of a stressful situation anymore.
Well, one of the things that I sense a shift in your perspective on competition is the idea that the arousal, the excitement, the nerves, the butterflies, all those things are really cool now, because when you weren't competing, you didn't have those. Whatever business you started, you don't get those.
No, it's not quite the same.
You're going into the bank to talk to them about giving you a small business loan. You don't have those kind of feelings.
No, not quite the same with that process, huh?
Exactly. Okay. So let's talk about the dynamics of being in pairs figure skating, where it doesn't matter if it was your twin sister, it's still another human being. And you guys have a generational gap. You have all these things that are not obstacles unless you allow them to be. How do you guys stay in sync? How do you communicate? Is it what is your pre-event process so that you guys can be on the same page, so that you can anticipate anything and everything that can happen? I mean, you could have, flight delays. You could show up and not get to practice. I mean, it could be a zillion different things. How are you going to make sure that you guys can give it your best and show up and show out, regardless of the obstacles and regardless of the adversity? And do you communicate about that in advance?
Yeah. So it's definitely a learning process, right? I think the more opportunities you have to do it, the more you learn about each other and what works. And I think Ellie and I have very different communication styles in general, right? Which can be common in any, and I'm going to call it a relationship because it is a relationship between two human beings, but it's not romantic like we discussed. But in any relationship, like we spend all day together, 8 to 5 Monday through Friday and half the day on Saturday. And we travel around the world. Like we walk through all these airports together. Like we spend a lot of time together, and you just start to understand people. You start to get that understanding of like, where are we going? What are we doing? Who's leading today? Who's following today? Are you a little bit grumpy? Are you a little bit tired? Where are you at your end of emotional battery? Right? There's one thing that we've talked about, which is that emotional or social battery, right? And we tend to be on different spectrums there. Like a lot of interactions tends to fill my emotional or social battery up to where I'm more willing to share or be more communicative. And Ellie starts, and then she has to have finally some alone time or some recharge after communicating or talking or being around people in social environments for too long, right? So we kind of have this happen to us, and we've found how to, once we get to that middle ground, maybe like allow each other space, or she didn't want to communicate that she needed space at the beginning, but that's something that she has gotten amazing at. And I've started to learn about her, like, oh, maybe these are some signs that it might be time for me to just like do my own thing for a little bit, or talk to our coach instead of pestering Ellie with small talk or little things like that, right? So there's a lot of things with just normal day-to-day interactions that then really step us up into competitive interactions, right? And we have made a point of knowing that when it is competition time, there isn't really any room for us not feeling connected. So we will, once we get to the rink, just come together as a team and know that we're there for each other no matter what. Whether that is that today Ellie has to say, I'm more nervous than normal and I'm not going to be able to bring a high level of communication to the off ice practice before we get on the ice because I want to give it to communication there. She's willing to say that. I'm willing to say 100% like that. Thank you for communicating that. You do what you need to do and we'll come together when it really matters, right? Or I'll say like, hey, I'm really nervous and like, I just need you to be here with me today. Like, I want to feel connected. Are we good? Right? And she's like, yeah, 100%. I got you. Right. So these moments of stepping up, knowing a little bit of self-awareness and being able to say like, this is what I need. And the other person being able to step up and say, okay, if you've communicated that you're in that need today, that's how I'm going to show up for you. Right. And I think that's like the epitome of great teammates, right? Is understanding that you may make yourself a tiny bit uncomfortable in order to make the other person comfortable so you can be at the same level, right? Because if one person's doing amazing and the other person's really not, it doesn't matter in our sport, right? Like I can't skate so well that I overcome any mistakes Ellie makes and vice versa, right? She can't skate so well that she overcomes that I was so nervous that I fell on my face just skating forward, right? And even if like a crazy thing to say, is actually better for both of us to be at 90% than for one of us to be at 100 and the other at 80, because then we're in perfect unison, right? And we can actually accomplish almost everything we need to at 90%, right? Or even at 70%, right? We train really hard in practice. We push ourselves past what is competition day requirements in order to know that we are more than capable on that competition day, and we just need to find that range of being together. So that's how I would deal with it.
I love that, Danny. Let's step back for a moment. How do you guys establish unity of vision? How do you have one goal, one vision, one objective so that you're both working, putting in the work with a unified purpose for why you're doing it so that you can hopefully show up and achieve something at the end of the road? Is that something where you get together every few months? Is it something where you talk about it continuously? For most people that are, you guys are living the American dream. The American dream is to be an Olympian. The bad part about the Olympics, you only get to do it every 4 years. And if you mess up in the trials, you have to wait another 4. And you can age out pretty quick, depending on the sport.
True.
So it stands to reason. It's common sense that the objective is Italy 2026.
Yep.
But you just don't wake up in, the spring of 2026, February of 2026, and you're in the Olympics. You got to go through this process. You have to go through this calendar. You have to go through these series of events. And in between the events is the grind.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys communicate about that? All of it.
Yeah. Right. So one thing that our coach is amazing at is what he calls debriefing after each competition and after each season so far. And just a meeting where we get together and we take the time to really make sure everyone's on the same page, right? And it sounds simple enough, right? What are our goals? What are we trying to accomplish? How do we get there? But without a roadmap, right? You can come in and work really hard every day and not really accomplish much. So that's, I think, our first season, where it was September to March, we didn't try to add too much of that, like 2026 Olympics goal setting in any day-to-day mindset, right? I think that year, Drew and I understood that achieving worlds was an outside possibility, and that was the ultimate goal. And I shared it with Ellie in a joking manner, but also said to her, like, I'm not going to talk about this much. We don't want to try and put really pressure on these kinds of events or achieving these things as outcomes. I really want to allow us to grow as a team and come together for the long term, right? And then after that first World Championships, we sat down in a coffee shop in Japan, and we had spent about 3 hours talking about what we would love to accomplish in that quad. And that's what we call that series of events. 4 years between Olympics is, in Olympic speak, is a quad, right? And we were in year 2 of that quad. Now we're in year 1 of that quad, right? Yeah. We were in year 1 of that quad. Now we're in year 3, just setting up for ourselves, like, hey, like, how do we go through the campaign to set ourselves apart consistently and eventually be that top team that it makes the most sense for us to go represent our country and have the opportunity to represent our country the best and bring back our country a medal if possible, right? And it's a lot to think about on a daily basis, right? When you're trying to get up early in the morning and get to the rink and just land some jumps and land some throws and not fall over on my sharp knife blades, right? Thinking about the Olympics on a daily basis can be exhausting, right? So it's not something that really pops into our mind every day, but it is something that we set long-term goals, and then we back that away and set yearly goals, and then we back that away and set competition goals, right? In your mind, each one of these intermediary or midterm goals is going to help you achieve that long-term goal of being an Olympian. But like you said, you don't just wake up and sign up for the Olympic Games, right? It's something that is a very long process and a lot of work over many years, and a lot of things have to go right for it to line up in that perfect circumstance every 4 years for you to be the one who gets to go represent your country. And I think that it's really important to remember that while that is the ultimate goal of being there, wearing those rings and wearing the American flag. It is just one accomplishment along a huge path of getting to that point, right? And all of the small successes, or relatively small speaking successes along the way, are actually what achieve that goal for you. And if you don't take the time to look at your small wins along the way and appreciate them and make them worthwhile, then it's cliche, but the final goal, when you get there, it feels really good for a little while, and then it all fades away, right? So life is not about making one thing really important 4 years from now, but instead making each of the steps really important and making them matter in a way that allows you to appreciate them and appreciate the whole journey up to the games. And I think that I actually really believe that now, right? I've been told that a lot. It's actually a cliche, right? Enjoy the journey so you can enjoy the outcome, right? But I've gotten to the point where I know the outcome is not guaranteed. 100% it's not, right? We were national champions last year, and I would love to be national champion again this year, but there's no guarantee that we stay healthy. There's no guarantee that there's not some amazing teams that come up and beat us somehow. There's no guarantee of anything in life, right? So if that is the only goal and this process sucks, is the goal really worth it, right? So yes, I want to go to those Olympic Games. I want to represent my country. I want to be an Olympian. I want to be an Olympic medalist, right? Like, I want to be there, and I want to do that with Ellie, and I want to feel so good about that process. But I also really want to enjoy this quad, these next 2 years getting there, right? So I think I answered your question. Like, how do we approach?
Yeah, and one of the things I would say, Danny, that you communicated was the idea that there's some fallacies in just focusing on goals. And one of the defective, it's almost like defective thinking when all you do is focus on the destination or the accomplishment or the recognition or the medal or the event. And what I've found to be more successful than focusing on the goal is two things. One is identifying the standard that you're going to exemplify and execute during the process. Okay. How are you going to show up through the process of quad 3 and quad 4? So we're just finishing up quad 2 right now, right? The next few months.
So our seasons kind of overlap the years, right? So our season, we're in halfway through the third season of the quad. So next
year is quad 4.
Next season will be the fourth season in the quad.
Okay. All right. So 2025 is quad 4. And it's not a calendar year. I understand. Yeah. So if you focus on your standards, like if you have this is what we stand for, and this is how we're going to show up for our practices. This is how your professionalism, your preparation, your dedication to detail in your practices, your rest, your communication, your connection with your coaches, your connection with each other, your detachment from the results, your detachment from the competition is a far better approach. And to do those standards, you have to focus on who are you becoming?
I like that.
Who is the man you have to be to up-level your partner, to support your partner, to bring out the best in your partner, to bring out the best in yourself, so that you can perform your standards at the highest level you can and let the results be what they're going to be.
Yeah.
No pressure. There's always pressure, but there's no pressure.
No, it's internal pressure when it comes from that, right? But it doesn't have to feel bad, right? Pressure doesn't have to be a bad thing in any way. Stress doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? We put ourselves under stress every time we work out on purpose, and it makes us stronger, right? And I think that being someone who fully embraces the pressure, the stress, the opportunities, the unique circumstances that you're in, and like you said, I love that. That resonated a lot. Try to be the best man I can be for myself and for everyone around me, while trying to achieve the set of standards that will help me achieve the goal. But by
they
focusing,
automatically take you there.
yeah, exactly. I like that a lot.
That's where you go.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, and I mean this in very positive fashion, but it's a question about self-reflection and awareness.
For sure.
What is the thing that you've thought about doing or becoming that you haven't done yet that you need to do so that you can be that person or that man that can up level? You can be the high tide that rises all boats. Is it being more patient? Is it being more sensitive to your partner's life? Is it taking more risk? Is it being more disciplined in your diet? What's the first thing that pops in your head that if you do this, it's going to make you become, it's going to help you become the person you need to become to automatically end up in Italy?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And I think I resonated with each one of the things as you said it, right? There's a lot of little things that it takes to really be there, and I know that I'm working on all of those things currently, and think that really committing to achieving, like, being the best partner I can be, right? Making sure my body stays really healthy, whether that's nutrition, recovery, the mental side of things, right? Committing to being my best personal self, committing to being my best self for my partner, and then having the best relationship possible with my coach as well, right? Because they're a part of the team, right? With figure skating, we are with our coaches all the time as well, right? And while they don't get to step out on the ice with us, they're a huge portion of the process of where we're going. And I think that really just understanding that I don't have to do it all myself and really putting trust in others in the process is probably the hardest thing for me to do over the years. I think that sometimes I push myself to different limits than maybe my body can handle, that maybe my mental state can handle, or like tiredness can handle, with trying to work jobs, trying to take on other people's difficulties, trying to coach at the same time, trying to build up the group of skaters around me and take that on myself. And I think that at the end of the day, the thing that will probably make the biggest difference and help me achieve the goals and being the man I need to be set that standard, right? Like you said, is accepting more help from others and being willing to give up a little bit of control of the process. I think that's probably where I could probably improve most.
Okay. So you used the word at least once, but it's the word that just popped in my head. If I was your coach, and I don't know anything about skating. I couldn't be your coach, but if I was your coach, my standard would be, we have to develop almost like this invincible trust. You and Ellie have to have this impenetrable trust with each other.
For sure.
And we got to have it together. You got to have that with your coach. So think about this. Your coach is having a bad day and your coach is a little short. Okay. Coach makes a little backhanded comment and Ellie looks at you and you give her that look like, oh, he's full of it today. Drew's a gentleman, obviously. So it's like, you just undercut the trust with your coach, with your partner, by how you responded with your eyes. And you didn't say anything.
Yeah, it's true. Right.
And she does the same thing. And then Drew, when you guys are in one-on-ones when he's with you and only you, and when he's with her and only her, he could say something that undermines your trust in Ellie and her trust in you. So if you guys can build this trust, you're like this triangle of trust, you'll go way farther than if you don't. And it goes hand in hand with being coachable. You went from a performer athlete to coach. Now you're back to being an athlete. So you're double-minded. You're coaching and performing at the same time.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you got to let the coach go so you can be the best performer you can be. So when Drew gives you little comments, you got to go, he's not wasting his breath. He's got a reason for what he's saying.
For sure. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and it's team sports. You're in a team sport. There may only be one other player on the floor, on the ice, but you're in a team sport. Trust
the team.
The only teams that win championships have tremendous amount of trust.
You have to.
Not a me game, it's a we game.
For sure. And being willing to let go of control and trust that the other people in your team are fully capable of doing their job, and I can't try to take control of their process. They can't try to take control of mine. And we're all here doing something that is very valuable to the team's success. So we have to focus on what we're doing and do it to the best of our ability, right? So that's something I've been working on. Yeah. You go ahead.
In football, the best analogy is too many guys trying to play quarterback.
Yeah,
we only need one quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you've got to play you got to do your role. Ellie's got to do hers and Drew's got to do his. And if you guys all stay in your own lanes, you'll go a lot farther. I mean, just common sense, right?
Specialties, right? If everybody's trying to get to the ball and not staying in their lane on a kickoff, things go wrong, right?
Give up a touchdown.
Yeah. So
bad news. Okay. So what is the thing that you have done to bring out the best in your partner? And what is the best thing she's done to bring out the best in you? And not throwing shade on people that you've been partners with in the past, but in this time in your career, she brings the best out of you. What has she done?
Great questions. So I think that what I've done to bring the best out in Ellie is been a stable foundation to allow her to grow in confidence to reach her full potential, right? I have been supportive of her process, of her growth, and really tried to be consistent so that she could understand that there's not going to be, there's no grudges, accountability is necessary, but there's no issues where there's no blame. That's the word I'm looking for. There's no blame within our partnership. And I think that by establishing that and being consistent with that, we've created circumstances where she's been able to grow so fast to be really a world-class pair skater now in her third season as a senior athlete. It's pretty amazing. And I think that what Ellie has done for me is she's pushed me in a lot of ways throughout the performance aspect of our skating. I think that she is wonderfully expressive and wonderfully capable of hitting lines that I am still working on achieving and performing out to the audience and to the judges in a way that has pushed me to really grow in that way and has helped our score a lot. And I think second thing that Ellie has done, less technical, more interpersonal, is that she's really allowed me to just take a breath and enjoy this process by being very genuine, by being hardworking in and of her own, like allowing me to really have a lot of trust in her and trust that she's gonna own her side of the equation. And it's been honestly consistency from her too, right? Consistently showing up, doing the work, being a good partner, and giving me the opportunity to to work more aggressively on myself and the partnership from my side, right? So it's, hey, right, we're in different generations, as you've said, but think that human growth is something where we each grow from the spot that we're at. And she's given me the opportunity to really grow as a man, also be the best partner I can possibly be for her, to learn through this process, even though I've done a lot of these competitions before, but to learn how to do them with Ellie and learn how to be a better version of myself in each iteration of going through it. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
What I heard you say, Danny, was that you created this environment for her where she's not being judged and she's not being compared. And you're allowing her to embody her talent and feel safe because you're not bringing up your past partners. And it's allowing her to take you to new heights, right? And where I heard you tell what she's helped you do is you're doing it a new way. You're not doing it the way you used to do it. You're allowing her expressiveness, her play into the judges. It's more from being a technician to an artist. And in your sport, it's both.
It is both.
But if you don't have the technique, you don't have to worry about being an artist. You won't make it. But if you're a technician, the one that's going to win and going to get the fan appeal, the audience response, the judges, favor, is the artistry of your sport.
For sure.
There's music in your sport. There's beauty in your sport. You guys don't hit each other. You don't tackle each other, right?
No.
So there's a lot of art, so artistry matters.
Yeah.
Song selection matters. Wardrobe matters. Your moves matter. Your facial expressions matter.
The way we make the audience feel, the way we make the judges feel, right?
You can tell I've watched a little figure skating over the years.
Appreciate it.
My wife and I have enjoyed figure skating over many, many, many years. So what would you like to share today that I haven't asked you, that you'd like to share with the audience about, pairs figure skating? Maybe something that it's different than what people think it is, or maybe nothing at all.
Yeah. I think that'd be a boring way to end if I was like, no, I got nothing. But I think you touched on a great point there at the end. I've heard the argument over the years, some people joking with you, or maybe not joking, saying that figure skating isn't necessarily a sport. And I've thought about it a lot. I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's only about half a sport. It's half sport where you're required to technically execute very precisely in the same way that you would execute a golf swing or a free throw or a pass down the field, right? But on the second side, it's equal parts an art, right? That artistic side of things is equally important. Being able to perform fully, get an emotional response from the judges and the audience who are there, and really change the way someone feels in that moment. So being able to do that with an intense athletic performance, and also being in a unique circumstance of pairs figure skating, where we're one of the few sports and arts in the entire world where it's a male and a female both executing intense athletics at the same time together, right? And the adrenaline and the differences in how the human bodies work even is a completely unique experience. And I think being able to just show that to people has been life-changing for me. And I think that the more people understand that when they're watching our sport, it is equal parts sport and art. We're not even competing against anyone, theoretically. There's no defense in football, right? There is defense in football. There's no defense
in football, but I know what you're saying.
Right. If I were to step out onto the ice with another team and try to get in the way of them accomplishing something, that would be a very different sport. But I step out on the ice and I'm competing against my own ability, right? I have one chance, 4 minutes, to go out there and try to prove to everyone and the judges that I'm the best one. And I've worked the past 4 years of my life for this 4 minutes that I get to spend on the ice, and try to prove to everyone else that I am, in fact, the best, right? But each other team gets their own individual moment, and I'm just trying to put my best self out there. And if my best self is better than everyone else, then I win, right? But there's no opportunity or even real desire to stop other people from performing their best, right? I just want to be better than them. And it's a interesting dynamic to where our sport is just very different, right? And you see that in a couple other sports, like things like half pipe or that kind of thing. Is everyone's just trying to be their best, and there's no defense. And there's a little bit of artistic skill into the style side of half pipe and that kind of thing. But doing it with another human being out there with you, being able to stand there, hold Ellie's hand, and perform in front of thousands of people is something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope that everyone else gets a chance to see.
Okay, I'm gonna end this by playing judge. Okay, I've never judged a figure skating or an Olympic event, but I'm going to use my eyes to see what I see. But when I'm not, it happens so fast that I'm going to look at your faces to tell me if you screwed up or not. Okay. And then I'm going to listen to the audience, and I'm going to feel the energy. And if you move me and you have no spills and no major things, I'm going to give you a great grade. But unfortunately, this is what happens in your sport. You know what it could be. She knows what it could be. She knew what you were supposed to do. You knew what she was supposed to do, and you don't do it. You're just a little off. Guess what? It shows up in spades on your faces.
True.
And you're not relaxed anymore. You're not having fun anymore. You're stressed out. You're trying to you're thinking 1,000 miles an hour, like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? So I think now I'm going to shift gears from being the judge to your coach. I'm going to coach you that every performance whatever competition you're in, it's a new day and it's a new performance. And because it's art, it's going to look like what it's going to look like. It's not supposed to look like what it looked like when you practiced. It's not supposed to look like what your choreographer set up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look like what it's going to look like. And you're going to love the art of whatever it looks like. No, don't get me wrong. If you drop her or somebody falls or something, that's different. But if you have an errorless performance, it's going to be what it was supposed to be.
Yep.
And I'm going to encourage you as a performer to embrace that day and that version or rendition of your performance as being perfect, because that's what it was.
I like that. It's hard to strive for perfection in a sport where it doesn't really exist, right? But I like that, thinking of it as the art half of the sport, you can achieve perfection in the fact that this was today's performance and it was perfect for having full effort, right? And for showing up and putting it out there, right?
Okay.
So, I like that.
Last perspective on this. The pairs walk off the ice, skate off the ice, and they sit in the purgatory. Okay.
I like that.
It's the judge's chamber waiting on their scores.
Yeah.
And she starts bawling and he starts consoling. You think they're going to get a good score?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably because they didn't perform very well if she's crying.
I get it. They're reflecting their performance.
Yeah.
But they're also comparing it to what they thought it was going to be instead of what it was. So if you can adopt the mindset, the perspective, and the philosophy that it's going to be today's version, and we're going to love today's version. Obviously, if somebody falls, I get all the technical problems. You get into the judge's chamber, so to speak, and you're high-fiving and hugging and having fun. You're going to get the favor and the benefit of the doubt of if I'm judging, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
I like that.
Is the performance over when you get off the ice?
No, that's honestly something that we're taught very young age as figure skaters. Like, it's funny. One coach that I had at a very young age said to me, you're only not performing when you're in your hotel room, right? Because even at those younger ages, like coaches and other athletes and people are all in the same hotels, and you might see judges there, and you step into the rink and your practices, you're putting on a performance, it's first impressions for a lot of situations, right? And first impressions in life matter. And how you're interacting with your partner and with your coach, those types of things. It's interesting because it is a sport, but the artistic side, the way you make another human being feel, judges are human beings. And if they see you like maybe being super rude to your partner or to your coach or to your mother, right? There may be a little piece of their mind that connects those dots and understands that, like, hey, this person, okay, they may still win, but they're not going to get quite as high of a score from me personally. And it's interesting, right? The entire situation. Oh man, they're really upset with that. They must not have done as well as I thought they did, right? That is a perfect take on the circumstances.
Well, as a human being, and judges, believe it or not, are human beings, they don't want to reward bad behavior. So if they see you disrespecting your coach, your teammate, your parent, your mom, whoever it might be, they subconsciously do not want to reward that behavior. So when you get out on the ice, what are they looking for? Defects, errors, mistakes, wobbles. If they like you, what are they looking for?
They're looking for those positive things, right? Where did they succeed?
So let's influence the judges the right way.
It's true.
Okay, Danny O'Shea, thank you so much for being on Pro Mindset. I hope you guys I don't care if you're a football guy, you're a baseball guy, you're a hoopster. This is pairs, figure skating, and it's the same stuff. You don't think football has an art to it? It's got an art to it too.
It's true.
Right? So thank you for being on Pro Mindset today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity and your insights. Have a good one.
Hey, it's Craig Domann, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a Pro Mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.